not going to do too much in the way of introductions, because what I thought I would do is firstly let everybody take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the concept, which is basically, for me to break it down into something I understand, would be why is a photograph or not a snapshot? What is it about that golden photograph that sometimes we capture that just makes it what it is, makes it special, keeps our focus on it, and what makes that different from the frame before that we took or the frame after that we took. So without much more from me, I will go in order of my screen and we'll go over to Luisa. Luisa, hi, good morning. What do you think about all this?
Well, you know, I've been in the industry for a long, long time. Well, first of all, my background is in music. I've been a violinist for a little bit over 50 years. So yes, I'm old. And from that, I led to other mediums of expressing art. I went into video and of course, photography, which is obviously why I'm here. I'm also a pilot. So I actually do a lot of aerial photography. So I'm not just a drone pilot. I actually fly little planes out of a very small airport near my house. And I enjoy aerial photography tremendously. How I make a living nowadays is through aerial photography, and I am a commercial photographer. I don't know if this is the moment where we show our work, Mark, or do we let the other speakers introduce themselves, and then we move into showing some of our pictures?
Well, how are you feeling, Louise? Are you ready to show it or you want another minute?
I am ready to show it, you know, let's go ahead and do it. I won't take too long because I'm sure my colleagues here have much better stuff to show. So let me just start here with things that are important to me. I do mostly commercial photography. So these are things that we're hired to do for real estate and et cetera, et cetera. I am very much into, obviously, all of us are, right? But where is the light coming from? This particular shot I liked because of the reflection of the building in the water. This was done early morning. Same with this one. This is the Baltimore Harbor, and you know, we're not going to get into legalities and permits and all of that. I just like the composition and, of course, the reflection in the water. This one I particularly enjoyed. Again, I like light, I like contrast, I like the more percussive aspect of photography. So I enjoyed this one because of the contrast between the waves, so the white of the waves, the almost black water, the wet sand, and then the dry sand, and then where the shadow in the sand is coming. This photo is obviously taken from a drone, and the camera is completely nadir, in other words, facing down completely. This one was part of a video. I really liked how the building on the left framed the city of Manhattan. This was taken from the New Jersey side. I like the foreground objects as well that help me frame things. In this case, the dock, you see the pylons kind of framing and guiding the eye towards, you know, the vanishing point in there. Again, the light, the contrast, the silhouette. I like the color of the sky. This picture, this particular one, is unprocessed. So those were the colors that actually the camera captured. The same with this one. I like the silhouettes. I like the contrast. I'm really into that percussive, and again, I'm using musical terms, the percussive aspects of photography. Same here. This one, not so much, but I like the composition of this one. This one was in Iceland, again, unprocessed. I don't think I even straightened it. It could be straightened a little bit, but I just took it directly from the camera. You know, you see the mountains in the back and all of that. So I enjoyed that composition. Same with this one. In this one, I have two samples. This is the sample of everything just together and modeled up, kind of like showing the big thing. The focus point and what we were actually hired to shoot was this lighthouse in the middle. So in here, you can't really tell that, but look at the difference in the drone when you go to this one, where now the lighthouse is above the horizon because we lowered the altitude of the drone and we raised the gimbal. So just changing a couple of things just makes the eye really go a lot better to what really is the point of focus. The same with this one. You have the parachute or the paraglider. It's below the horizon. Look at the difference between that and this when it's above the horizon. It actually guides your eye a lot better to that focus point. I like using, oh, this one was actually cropped a little bit in my PowerPoint. There's actually a dock on the right-hand side. And I like using elements that are already there to help me frame. Again, I like the contrast. Look at the light in the bottom right-hand side. And then, of course, the lighthouse and the boat help frame the image. Same with the sky here. This one is processed in Camera Raw in Photoshop. I like the contrast between the darkness of the sky and the brightness of the clouds, and of course, the building. Same with this one. So I like shooting either early in the morning or in the afternoon where I can get those glints and that sort of thing. All right, so this one is just architectural photography, highlighting the pool at the top of this building. Again, we were hired so that they would have a better chance of renting these apartments. And this one is just the Nat Stadium in DC. This was taken early in the morning. Therefore, I have the harsh shadows. It's difficult to get the permit to fly in DC, so that was the only time that I could do it. But this is an example on how I should have chosen a different time of day to shoot that one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share because that's about it. I think I'm out of time, and I'm gonna yield the floor to my wonderful colleagues.
Thank you. I love flying my drone and making photos, but the skills that are involved, wow, that's very impressive.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And as a keen drone flyer, I certainly see, I definitely learned something about something there. So next we have Jendra. Jendra, are you ready?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So Jendra, 4 or 5 minutes, tell us about what you do and why you do it, and what makes the images that you show the ones that you would like to think are the showstoppers.
I don't know about showstoppers, but what I'm going to show today has been my personal work that has been the creative journey that I think evokes the theme of the panel of what I've been doing with my time during this quarantine hiatus. So I'm coming to you from Brooklyn. I'm a professional cinematographer, and my industry shut down, of course, in March until about August. And I've been, I think like a lot of people questioning, using this time, how best to use this time. And for me, the slowing down was a very introspective time, and reassessing my purpose and what drives me and what my priorities are and why I do what I do, and am I on the right path. And part of my exploration of that has been through photography. So I'm going to start by showing just a snapshot of my professional work. So this is, as a cinematographer, I'm a professional, an artist for hire. So I have to show up and execute for other people. Hold on, I have to move this taskbar to navigate this. So, oh no, I just closed out. Okay, so here's just some snapshots of my website. I'm not going to spend time playing the videos because that's just a glance at what I do professionally, but I'm going to talk more about the personal in terms of today. So when I look at what drives me and what motivates me to do this, let me back up, sorry. That the way that I view my job as a cinematographer is that it's 1/3 technical, 1/3 creative, and 1/3 managerial. And I've traditionally spent most of my time developing the technical and the managerial sides in terms of my professional growth. By managerial, I mean leadership and communication, because those are easier to study and more concrete than creativity. But when I look at what drives me and what motivates me to want to do this with my life, it all comes down to the creativity. The other two are really just in service of the creativity. So how does one develop their creativity? Their imagination, their openness to inspiration, their harnessing of fresh ideas. And if creativity is like a muscle that gets stronger with use, how does one strengthen that muscle? It's something I really hadn't put too much energy into before our quarantine hiatus because it intimidated me. I didn't know where to look, what to do, whether it would pay off, whether it was a good use of my time. But somehow all this reckoning and examination of purpose and questioning of life choices led me to face my fears around it and the courage to try something new. I had taken a workshop a really long time ago at the Rockport workshops in Maine with Steve Fierberg, ASC, the DP masterclass. And I was lamenting to him how, as a cinematographer, we need to get hired onto someone else's project in order to have the opportunity to practice our craft and advance our craft. And he stopped me and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You do not need anyone else's permission to create. And that really changed my view about feeling disempowered as needing to get hired and what can I do on my own. And so I was talking to my therapist over a couple months ago, realizing how much of my career I've focused my energy on proving myself, on the hustle of trying to get hired and the career development side of things, and realizing that that was really just a manifestation of my insecurities from childhood of not finding belonging or acceptance. And he asked me, like, what would be a better use of your energy? And I said, developing my creativity. And he said, what does that look like? And so we brainstormed coming up with a daily creative practice. And so that's what I'm going to show you today, which is, I've never intended to show this work. This was done for my own practice, for my own self-expression, for my own creative play. And I've been doing this every day for about 2 months now. And I have to say that it's been incredibly rewarding, and I'm actually pretty excited about some of the results. It was never made for the results. It was made for the process and the practice and the safe space to fail. And so I just started playing with experimental techniques and what interests me. What do I feel like playing with today? I got into like prisms and lens babies and got a Petzval lens for Christmas. Some of this is in my neighborhood. Most of this is in my house. I finally got to leave the house last week and went skiing. So this is all up in upstate in the Adirondacks. And the more I've gotten bored with what's in my house, the more I've been pushing myself. This was actually Friday night after the creativity conference. I went out to my courtyard with a light up cape, like a sheer piece of fabric with lights in it that's made like for costume parties. And then last night, between the final session of the day and the social hour, I was feeling like dancing. And I thought a red dress would be, so I was playing with long exposures. So that was very, I mean, I don't even know if it's any good, but it's personal, it's that creative exploration. And I think that's important, when you're especially when you're showing up as a work for hire. Like, what is your personal work? What do you do for just yourself when you're not answering to a client, a deadline, a budget, etc.?
I think that's amazing, and I love your photographs. My personal struggle with personal work is, is it personal if I'm doing it to show people what I do? So it's a really strange one, because I think people almost have 3 levels of work. They have their commercial work, then they have their personal work that they do on their off time. And then me, I have my work that I'm never going to show it to you because I don't want to hear what you think about it. And it is truly for me.
This was that, but I stepped out of my comfort zone by showing it, because being added to this panel, I was like, you know, I'm a cinematographer. What am I going to show?
That's incredibly brave, and thank you very, very much for that too, because I know how hard it is to open your, you know, the analogy I always give when people say, do you have any personal work? It was like, look, when I come into your house, would I ask to look through your underwear drawer? No. To me, my personal work is like, no, you're not seeing it, you're not judging it, and you don't want to hear it. So I really appreciate that you actually opened up your personal work to us. So thank you so much for that. Mr. Stacy.
Yes.
Ready to roll?
I am. Well, I can certainly relate to Jendra's comments about what do you do during a quarantine when so much of your work is external. And I've certainly had to grapple with that because I'm predominantly a people photographer and a documentary photographer. So I've spent, although I don't have the work to show here, I've spent a lot of time doing nature photography this year and learning about succulents and spending time in places outdoors, which is, you know, being an urban person, not something I normally do. But generally speaking, you know, I do love all forms of photography, but the bulk of my work is more documentary oriented. And so, you know, I have sort of seen, I sort of came to photography because I think that the world is full of, you know, overwhelming and daunting problems, and you know, photography is a way for me to explore the things that I don't entirely understand about these issues. And since I'm a visual and justice-oriented person, you know, I try to use photography as an agent for social change, try to impact people's viewpoints on issues. Certainly, when I was growing up, I was influenced by, you know, many of the iconic images that you would think about, you know, the Vietnam War or World War II or what have you. And so, you know, I try to focus on things like mental health, working with homelessness in terms of trying to bring not just images of homelessness, but you know, I work a lot on narrative stories from the people that I photograph. As a veteran myself, I'm very concerned about how veterans are treated, particularly in American society, but I think it's, you know, a universal experience across nations. I also care very much about policing and the overstep of it. This particular image was me being close to being arrested. The gentlemen on the left are part of Los Angeles City services, and they were basically breaking up these food carts that these immigrants have they're unlicensed. So, you know, they come and seize the carts, they seize all the materials, and they throw everything out. And this officer didn't like me, Officer Flores didn't like me photographing it. So I'm constantly trying to, you know, understand, you know, our experiences with the police. Of course, this has naturally taken me to things like Black Lives Matter, which you know, started in the mid part of the last decade and has continued on today. I personally like this image because of the fierceness of the determination that this woman evokes in talking about this issue. One of the nice things that I've seen about the movement, this image here is from Portland, is that it's, you know, when Black Lives Matters first started, it, you know, was predominantly Black people who were participating in that, and it has grown. And I think that's through the power of imagery. I think if the George Floyd video had not been visible for everybody to see, I don't think that it would have had the groundswell of support that it had during this year. And I was happy to see so many people of all walks of life, demographics, and all age groups participating. So I do know that imagery can make a difference. I also care about income inequality. I spent a good time, I think a lot of my work started where I really started engaging in photography was through Occupy Wall Street when it first started, and I just went out and started making photos of that. I also care about the precariousness of how we all live. This image was taken in Jakarta. This is a image of a neighborhood that's burning down, and the social services there are so bad that the fire department, there's no water. Water pressure is awful, so people were just handing buckets trying to save their neighborhood, and it ended up making 1,100 people homeless. And I think that's the position that a lot of people are in. It's just one disaster away from stuff happening. So, and people doing with less. So this image is from Cuba, and the guy, the goalie there, there's just one shoe, and the ball is just completely beaten to nothing. And so I'm always impressed by the resilience of people able to do with so little and be happy and make the best of things. Probably my most passionate concern is women's empowerment. I have a daughter myself, and I've always thought about the kind of world that I want her to be able to grow up in, and what kind of voice she has. So this is some work that I've done in Rwanda concerning a women's college called the Attila Institute for Women. And this is three generations of women. The lady on the right is the student, and then this is their mother on the left and their grandmother in the center. And so it's a lot of stuff like that. And just, I think, bringing dignity to the people that I photograph and then the circumstances that I'm in, I think is really important. And I think that kind of sums up, my work, generally speaking. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mark. I'll stop the share.
Wow. See, I think one of the big questions around right now is, with everybody's access to digital and, so many people in the world having cameras in their pockets, so much more stuff is documented. But because it's documented doesn't mean that it's a showstopper or something we want to look at. But then you take guys like Robert, who has photographic skill, obviously beautiful sense of composition and light and character, and you put somebody like that into these situations where it's so beyond anything I could do. And then these two things start to come together, and you start to see the imagery that Robert creates, which is not only...
And the point of view, I think.
Yeah, it becomes not only incredibly important, the story, but creating images that will stop you and make you look. So I'm blown away as somebody who would never have the ability. I think my hands would be shaking. I don't think I would be able to take these shots, and I truly appreciate seeing them. And I'm divided between gorgeous art and real emotional reaction to them. So thank you. So
incredibly powerful, both of you. So now I feel bad about showing you my boring commercial real estate stuff, but I guess there's a market for everything, right?
We haven't got my celebrity portraits yet.
Right. No, incredibly powerful, both Jendra and Robert. So congratulations. I'm blown away.
Yeah, and it shows, so much of it shows the differences in you know, the struggle in the creative process to
Right.
create these images. I mean, you know, your struggle, Louisa, one of your struggles is a lot of people don't want you doing what you do. So
Right.
you have to go through this nonsense bureaucracy to
Right.
get your permit. And, you know, you have to physically get there. You know, you're so reliant on your drone. I mean, if there's something goes wrong, there's so many factors that you have to go through to make your images. Jendra, definitely, I would imagine in her commercial work as a woman DOP, has come against a lot of struggles in such a male-orientated environment, but more so looking at your, you know, your personal work is, you know, this inability to do nothing and to drive yourself to do something that is so out your norm, and you know, and succeeding at it. And obviously, Robert, you know, actually having the insight, the ability, the courage, and the skill to go out and make these photos is quite amazing. So thank you all for that. And I think we definitely saw some photos, or I definitely saw some photos through everything that will stay with us. I especially liked Jendra's photo that she did last night of the lightning out on the coat. I mean, you know, I would think about that and I go, wow, what a great idea. And then there's no way I would actually go and do it. So that's also a big part of it, is taking it from the thought to the execution, which is great.
Yeah. I have to tell you, Jendra, I really love the dancer. The red dress.
Yeah, it's nice.
Loved it. That was amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, that was last night, and I'd say that was partly inspired by this conference and all the thoughts about creativity that I've been absorbing for 2 days.
Absolutely.
Love.
Yes, I think we can open it up to the four of us and let's have some thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's been so wonderful to actually see your works. Absolutely marvelous pieces. Thank you. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. The first question from Yvonne is for Robert. Do you exclusively shoot black and white? And I think probably also why, if yes.
I'd say that in the last year and a half or so, I've made a decision to shoot exclusively black and white. I do have a bunch of color work, but I think that black and white allows a lot of focus on the emotion of the photo. And you know, if the photo doesn't work, I guess, you know, it's really easy to tell if the color, I guess what I'm trying to say is color to me can cheat the emotion because it can be very vivid and you can be really struck by the color. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes I think the color sort of doesn't necessarily make the photo emotionally strong. Whereas I think if you remove color, and in fact, the cameras I use now are exclusively black and white. I shoot with a Leica M10 monochrome, so I don't even have that as an option. I feel really liberated by that decision because I don't have to think about it anymore. I can only shoot black and white. So
that's super brave. I'm playing right now with the Q2 monochrome, and it is very liberating. I do something similar with my camera. I don't know if I know the monochrome actually shoots, it's a black and white sensor, but with my camera, I'm able to see my preview. If you're using a mirrorless camera, I'm sure you can do this. Robert isn't, so he's having to work even harder. But with my camera, you know, it's mirrorless, so I have my LCD displaying in black and white, because for me, if it works in black and white, that's all that matters. If it works in color, it's a bonus.
For me, as I've done this experimenting the last couple of months, I have decided in advance what I feel like it should be black and white. Like the photos that I showed that were black and white, actually, I don't even know if I picked that many that were. I decided in advance, like, this is the right mood for what I'm trying to say or what I'm going for. And like Robert said, I think that I'm more interested in abstractions than just having a matter of fact thing. And I think that helps solve that question of like what differentiates a photograph from a snapshot. And I think the short answer to that is the intention. But making it black and white has an intention, but also when you are seeing something that's black and white, you know that a choice was made and you're removing a lot of the extraneous busy stuff that can really like isolate the point of what the picture is.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you one picture I made in black and white, which was not actually supposed to be black and white, but it ended up being black and white. So just talking about showstopper, not that this is particularly showstopper, but the intent to make this photograph, you know you're going to have 5 minutes with Al Pacino, what you're going to do. And just knowing in my head that I wanted this picture to look like this, and I wanted, you know, Al Pacino to give me these eyes and that look, and working towards that and creating it. And the one thing that I'll say about the picture that makes people look is when you through your tools, especially with portraits, achieve your intent, as you said, Jendra, that's when the magic happens. I mean, with Robert, he's not asking people to move or do anything. I'm sure he's just documenting what's there. So knowing when to press the camera, when to press the shutter. And I think a lot of these things are why some photos make us stop and look. And I have very few photos. I'm not sure if it's the same for you guys, but I have very few photos that I go, oh, that was lucky.
Happy accidents do occur.
No, happy accidents definitely do occur, but you know, when you're being paid to do a job or go out and do something, you can't be relying on a happy accident.
No, not at all.
You have to make the intent of the photograph what you're being paid for, and work around that a little bit. So that's also the difference.
Or create the environment where happy accidents can occur. You have to build towards that.
I'm inspired by you, Jendra, to go make some happy accidents, which are all going to look crap, but we'll try anyway.
A lot of these were happy accidents. Like some of them, I would just put on my interval, like the one in the shower. I just put on an intervalometer and knew that the camera was going every 5 seconds. And I was like, what would make interesting images through this glass pane in the shower, and tried a bunch of things. I didn't know what was going to work.
But you're saying happy accident, but the intent was there.
Right. And I wouldn't call that an accident since you actually did set it up. So that was an accident done on purpose, I guess. So yeah, I thought it was really, really powerful with the hand on the shower door and all of that. So yeah, I don't shoot in black and white, not for my commercial work, because they want these photos to rent that commercial building or to showcase it. So they're not interested in the black and white. But I see that Ivan has a question for me in the chat, and it says, "Do I look for the high contrast shot in my non-commercial photography?" And the answer is yes. I like I mentioned before, I'm a musician, so I view everything from the music point of view, and I get it. Photography is abstract, music is like video art that live in time, but I see photography as being very vertical or very horizontal. So vertical would be more percussive, more contrasting. I see, for example, Robert's photos and even what you showed of Al Pacino, Mark, as being very percussive, because it's very contrasting. It's like you have silence, that would be the white or the black, it doesn't really matter. And then you have boom, boom, very contrasting things. And I like that in music, the Prokofiev and all that very percussive sounds. And I like that in photography. So to answer Ivan, yes, I do look for the high contrast in my own personal work. And just like Mark, my personal work is for me. I don't show it.
Wonderful. So Luisa, you've already touched upon the question that was directed to you. There's a question which says, Mark, you have such a lovely look. Have you ever done any self-portraits or prefer to take photos of others? And I think this question can go into, for everyone, sort of, do you have a favorite subject matter and why?
I mean, I take a ton of self-portraits on my phone doing stupid things, but never in the form of like a serious portrait. I don't know why. I've always been weirded out by self-portraits. I mean, you know, some are really great, obviously, and some people have dedicated their life, but I'm much more interested in learning about you and taking a photograph of you than I am about exposing my inner self to my own camera. I'm not trying to be flippant. I just genuinely much more excited about meeting somebody and learning something about them and making that in a photograph. I think I know enough about myself. Anyone else?
For myself, despite the fact that I do a lot of upfront photography, I'm surprisingly pretty introverted. So the most horrifying thing of all is having my picture taken. But I traveled recently to Korea, and I had to do a 2-week quarantine, and you know, just in a hotel room. And what do you photograph? So I did work on some self-portraits, you know, of me, you know, eating the daily food they brought and stuff like that. It was a weird experience. I've been slowly publishing that journal on Instagram, you know, talking about that experience. So pictures have slowly been trickling out of that. So.
If I may talk about self-portraits, because I showed a few. I did not intend to embark on a journey of self-portraiture when I started this experiment. I'd say I got maybe 2 to 3 weeks in before I ever put myself into a picture or even broke out a tripod. I was more interested in macro objects or lighting things in weird ways, or like what's out my window, or how does the light change in my apartment, or different moods. And then as I started kind of running out of things in my environment that were getting my attention, I started thinking it was really about mood. And I was like, okay, if I want to express a mood, I kind of need a character to act. And that was like the first image that I showed was the long exposure with the, you know, sort of despair, but then like the hope of looking out the window. And that was my first idea to utilize myself. But it was basically because I'm pushing myself to make an image every day, and what do I want to stay with it? And I'm the only one here. So, I mean, my husband is here, and I did do one picture that with him in it, and sometimes I have him be a stand-in for me as I'm setting something up. But I found through this journey that the pictures that I'm in are some of my favorites. And I don't think that that's a egotistical thing so much as the utilizing a person, a human that we relate to express something, whether it's movement or, you know, even that fragmented silhouetted nude of myself in the bathroom window. And it's like, oh God, I'm putting a naked picture of myself up to my colleagues, but it's a cool picture. So I've got myself to utilize, and I'm actually finding that in terms of the intention of this having to do with self-expression and vulnerability to be some of the most fun, you know, bringing out my my inner Cindy Sherman.
Yeah, absolutely. I love having my photo taken, but I just don't want to do it myself. And so many photographers, oh, I hate having. I'm like, wow, this is great, man. What can I do to make?
Oh no, I'm definitely one of those hate it, like can't stand it.
How's it like if I do that? No, I absolutely love it. I'm inspired to try some self-portraits.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Thank you very much. We have last question and around 5 minutes left till the end of the session. Samantha is asking, Louisa, what camera setup are you using for Zoom? Do you have a Blackmagic box to convert for live stream? Do you mind sharing it? Yeah, we spoke about this before the beginning of the session. Share your secret, Louisa.
So we did. So I took my very, very old Canon 5D Mark III, and I have it connected to the computer via the ATEM Mini, which is the Blackmagic design box. And in fact, you can even see it in the camera, is this one. This, what you're seeing in the background is not a background. This is actually my studio. Here is where I do my processing and all of that. I like the green of the plants, and I like the warmer light and all of that. So, and of course, being a musician, I have to have my keyboard in there, so that when something is rendering or I need just to clear my head, I just play a little bit and that helps. So the answer is yes. I have all of that set up via the Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
I saw a question from earlier in the chat that we never addressed that I think is really interesting. Karina asked that she's curious to hear how everyone keeps fresh eyes.
For me, I always carry a camera everywhere I go. So I think I'm always in hyper observation mode. And so because I think early on, I learned so many times that, oh, that would have been great. Oh, but I don't have my camera. And so I just have that anywhere I go. I think that's sort of the way that I'm able to always be creating, is I never make an excuse. Oh, it's too heavy, or it's raining, or, like I just always bring it with me.
Mm-hmm.
I do it a different way. I'm so passionate about faces. I never carry a camera. I wish I make every excuse under the sun not to carry my camera, which I regret because for all the reasons you said. But what I do is every time I see or interact with somebody, I talk to them as if I'm about to take their photo and think, how am I going to do this? And what would I do if I was doing this? And how do I provoke this reaction? How do I make them smile? So I'm constantly practicing my portraiture without physically having a camera. So I think that's
a charmer. He's a charmer.
I love it.
It could go the other way, Robert. And I asked you to deliver this last Tuesday. What happened, man?
Yeah,
it's on Thursday. Where are you guys at with this? So you can, they're always charming, but I mean, I think genuinely in the whole life experience of being nice to people actually is much more beneficial than to be mean. And I can scientifically prove this by the fact that I hope I'm nice in person, but I'm genuinely, practicing being nice to see what happens. And I can say that 99% out of 100 being nice, it takes two to have an argument. So, being civil and treating other people as human beings actually makes for better interactions through life and through photography.
That's true. I also carry cigarettes, which is a great icebreaker with certain types of people you're trying to photograph. So yeah, I don't smoke myself, but, happy to offer them,
Can't share this anymore, but I used to. I was like, you want to hit this? I can't do that anymore.
We have just a few minutes left, and I'll now say probably the last question. And if anybody else wants to ask any question after this, I hope our speakers are going to share their websites and social media pages where they can reach you. So, question from Samantha, probably a very brief answer. How do you, if you have this issue, not get stuck on the tech aspects of shooting and just get to the shot itself? I hope this question makes sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna equate like everything else that I do with music. How do you play a piece and concentrate on the music and instead of how you're gonna move your fingers, right? And the answer is practice, 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 right? So we have to become so comfortable with the technology that it's no longer an issue. If I'm shooting anything, just like if I'm playing anything, I'm not thinking about, oh, how are the fingerings going to go? That doesn't enter my mind. It is technique, or in this case, technical aspects to the service of art and not the other way around. So you practice, you become so familiar with your equipment that your fingers, your mind just does it automatically and you take the shot. How you did it no longer comes part of your conscious mind, although it's part of it because you practice it so much beforehand.
Yeah,
I would say the same. Yeah.
I completely agree. I see Samantha added in, you know, she's more concerned, you know, with like, if you're taking a photograph, how do you not worry about the light? Well, practice, know the parameters of your light. You set up a super fine grid that is only lighting this area. You know, if they start doing this, you're going to lose your shot. So if you're working with somebody that you think is going to move a lot, or you're getting them to move a lot, don't use that light. Because what you want to do is, or what I want to do is get into a position where my light's okay or reasonably good, and then just spend the time taking photographs. And it's much better for me as a portrait photographer. It's much more important to get the shot that expresses some kind of communication than to have perfect light. Forget about the tech. Don't let the tech. You know, great. You know, so many of the. Not that I feel I've taken great portraits, but so many of the portraits that I like are completely technically not perfect. So as much as you can forget about it, practice, know what you're doing, and then forget about it.
Right.